welcome to another FACEHAMMER show. It's me, Russ the Face Feel, and in this show I'm going to be talking about the Long Hunt book for Age of Sigmar, and in particular the Draconith SKYWING Allegiance, with a sample army list and kind of like why I've chosen what I've chosen and how it works, and I'll be going through some of the grand strategy, battle tactics, and things for the list. If you've seen the hobby video I did, I've actually painted Irus, and he's an awesome model, and I'm going to end up doing a Drake army at this right now, because he's kind of inspired me to do that. So yeah, this is actually a list I'm actually going to construct and paint, and for those that watched the Iron Jaws launch video for my hobby project, that's probably going to go on hold for a while I do this, and I'll probably document this one instead. Warhammer community put up this helpful article with a lot of the information about the Draconith SKYWING this week, which you can check out. I'll put a link in the description. So just if you don't know how armies of renown work, they have a few special rules. So essentially you don't use the allegiance abilities from your battle tome. So although it's a Stormcast army, you can't use any of the Stormcast rules in the allegiance abilities, and you also cannot use things like grand strategies, battle tactics, formations, and battalions, whatever they call them. There's like those elements are not used. In addition, with this army, every single unit has to have the Draconith keyword. So basically, you're limited to Ionis, a Knight Draconus, the Stormdrake Guard, and Krondrus and Kazrai. They're the only models that have those keywords. So you can't have allies, and you can't have any other thing in there. Now it says unit. So I think ender spells are fine, and also your if you had faction terrain, for example, the Sylvan F1 in the book, you would be able to use their faction terrain, because that's totally fine. So anyway, so on the article it does explain that basically, I won't go through his rules, I'll get to that in a minute. So the Draconith SKYWING army allows you, it says there, it must have Stormcast and Draconith keyword, but it also means that Krondrus, Karazai, and Stormdrake Guard are battle line. It's quite interesting because those two heroes being battle line allows you to do a list with both of them in it as well. So you can do those two and a Stormdrake unit. I've only taken Krondrus at the moment because I want the wizard, because the current handbook you need wizards and stuff to cast spells to get battle tactics, and I think this army will struggle a little bit with battle tactics. So it's kind of a bit of a weird one, because I'll get onto that at the end, but they've got quite a few which require lots of models, and they don't have lots of models, so it's an interesting one. So they've got this rule which allows Ionis critborn, if he's within 3 inches, to basically take the wounds on himself. And it's instead of a ward, but they don't have wards, so actually it's like a way to distribute damage, which can be quite nice, because he's quite important to keep alive. It does quite a lot of heavy lifting in the list, I found. I've played a game with this actually, and it was super interesting. So they've also got new monstrous rampages, get the word right. So there's 2 of them. So it's basically Draconiths can do them. So that's basically anything in your army. It's all monsters. So you've got stun, which is on a 3+ -1 to wound rolls. That's really good. That combined with a roar, combined with the pile-in, if they've not got a big charge, or you're able to, like, you know, there's a big unit with small reach, it's really strong. You've got impact, tremors, so against a unit within 3 inches, or dice on a 3+, they only pile in 1 inch instead of 3 inches, so that's super good. That can be quite useful for things like when people set up something where they want to attack twice, kill something and pile in something else, or you know, just they've made a charge but only just so they're in a bit of a line, or they're not got everyone in, or you've charged them on the corner and you don't want to get a lot of attacks coming back. So it's a little bit underrated, that one, I think, so it's very good. So they've got some enhancements, which I'll talk about in more detail because I've actually got those to show you. Yeah, so let's get into that one then, because that would be useful. So some extra things in the book. One of them is heroic action, which allows you to basically stop enemy units within 3 inches using Inspiring Presence. Irus has that as a aura anyway, but if he's dead or you want it in a separate place, it can be quite good, but you're giving up heroic action, so I don't know how often you'll use it, but it's nice to have an option or a backup if that's important for what you're facing. I don't think it'll come up very often, but it's important to remember you've got it in your toolkit. So one of the things that's quite interesting about this one, now normally in a Stormcast army, if you take a Knight Draconus, you can have one single Storm Drake Guard unit of 1. It's different in this army because it says for each hero. So if you have like Crondrus and Karazai, you could have 2 singles for them without having a Knight Draconus in your army. The only caveat is they're not battle line if there's 1 model, so you'll literally have to spend 3 units of 2 Drake to get battle line, or what the 2 dragons or one of the dragons and 2 units of 2. So you've always got to have that in your list. And kind of defaults, I think you've always want to take Ionis because it's his army, so why would you not take him in it? And I think Knight Draconus is properly good anyway, so I would probably have one in my list anyway, so kind of the list almost writes itself to a point of view. I'll get to that in a minute. It's pretty simple and a lot of fun, to be honest. So they've also got this Exemplars of Fury. So at the start of the combat phase, if there are 2 or more other Skywing units within 6 of a hero, you get to add 1 to the attacks of melee weapons used by that hero's mount until the end of the phase. Now, that's pretty good for Ionis and Knight Draconus. Now, obviously, Crondrus and Karazai are not mounts, so they wouldn't benefit from that, but they do count as a unit to be within range. So they do count as a unit to be within range. So it's pretty good considering how choppy the heroes are. That's pretty good. I mean, it's only a mount attack, it's not the rider attack. So, but it's still a bonus. So it's quite nice to have an extra attack. It's easy to forget that rule. I didn't play it in my game. It kind of felt a little bit like it wasn't really that important. So let's talk about the warscroll for Irus critborn, and so I just talk about Irus critborn's warscroll. This is on the Warhammer communities, so you can just go here. So he's movement 14. He's got 16 wounds, 3 up armor save. He's bravery 9. He's got a really interesting shooting attack. So it's 9 rather than the mortal wound breath. It's just 9 regular shots. It's Ren 2 and it's freeze and freeze. It's only 1 damage, but it's got quite an interesting ability where it soul burns the enemy unit. Now, the way this works is that if they've got a soul burn token every hero phase, at the end of yours and theirs, you roll a dice, and if you roll the battle round or less, they take D3 mortals. Now, it doesn't say they stop being soul burned, so basically it's like they're burning until they use an ability that allows them to heal. And it doesn't heal any wounds, but what it does do, it removes the soul burn. So it's like a debuff that puts a ticking dot or damage over time effect. So because it's got 9 shots, you can split fire and apply the debuff to multiple units. It's a little bit random. You do roll enough dice, and when you getting into battle round 4 and 5, it can do some work. I find the biggest effect on it really is to shut down a heal. So if you're playing, I played against OBR, so the first heal would normally bring a model back, just got rid of the soul burn. So it was almost the same as doing 3 mortal wounds. They didn't save, so again on a unit of cavalry. So I think it's super good. Then he's got the Draconic Horror rule, which is what I talked about, which is enemy units cannot receive Rally or Inspiring Presence. Now that is super good in the current meta as well. No Rally and no Inspiring is super, super strong. That really affects a lot of armies. He's got this -1 attacks of melee weapons that target him, like Crondrus and Karazai have that as well. So that's decent. I mean, that's just less damage coming in. The Arch-relictor ability, so in your hero phase, you can chant 2 prayers. At the start, say how many he's going to do. If you say 1, he automatically channels it. It's a roll of a 6, and no additional prayers can be done. If you say 2, you roll as normal. I generally just did the 1 automatic prayer because it just takes away that RNG element. And at the start of the enemy hero phase, you can pick an endless spell or invocation, roll a dice on 2+, it's dispelled, all the invocation is banished. So being able to get rid of invocations is super good. But also the fact that you can do it to your own endless spell that Crondrus has cast, and it's not in. It's almost like a second one because it's an ability that isn't just a normal dispel. So you could also do that as well because he's a priest. So you could do a normal dispel, then you could also do this, I believe. Then you've got this prayer, which is Lightning Tempest, which is answered on a free range of 18, which is quite a long range. Pick enemy unit. They take D3 mortals, then you roll a dice. On a free plus, pick another one within 3. They take D3 mortals and keep going until you can't pick a new unit within 3 inches, basically. You can't go back to a unit you've already affected, so you can't like pinball between the two. It's super good. It's a nice little chip damage. Most armies tend to have stuff near each other, or they don't want to be outside of 3 because, you know, that means they're not benefiting from lookouts or other things, and generally find that people are normally bunched up, and you know, trying to protect things by putting things in layers, and this kind of punishes people for doing that. So it's only D3 mortals, but when you combine that with the breath weapons and other things, it's good. Obviously, you're going to have access to Smite and Bless to give you a 6-up ward, which actually is quite good in this list, to put a 6-up ward on a model that you don't want to get killed. So that's also pretty strong, bit of defense. He also gets access to a prayer lore from the book, which I'll show you now. So you have these free prayer scriptures. So you've got Sigmar's Grace, which is on a free, and it's a range of 12. Pick a friendly unit wholly within range, invisible. They heal 3 wounds. Now, actually, healing in this army is really strong, and so it is actually quite good, particularly if you've been bouncing wounds, and then you do like heroic recovery on Irus, and then you do the heal on the Drake unit you bounce to. You can also rally the Drakes, which, you know, means it's only a 1 in 6 chance to get the Drake back, but that's a bit of a big impact if you get it off. And your command points, you don't really need to spend a lot because you've got Draconic Onslaught on the Storm Drake Guard anyway to reroll charges, and I've given the battle trait to reroll charges on my Knight Draconus. You don't really need a lot of them. You're basically just, and you got best day evers and stuff, so you're needing to use it for hit rolls in combat. Triumphs would be super interesting to get +1 to wound and make a big difference for this list. The other one is Sanctification, so it's on a 4, and then it's -1 cast to enemy wizards and 1 from chanting rolls for enemy priests. And I don't really think that's worth taking, particularly as people can use these magic dice to add to their casting. So it's like, yeah, -1 to cast, it might make it easy to unbind, but I don't see it as a big thing. Then you've got Sovereignty. Now, this one is probably the one I would choose most times, because it's answered on a 4. It's a range of 12, so it's quite a short range, but you can pick an enemy unit, and until the start of your next hero phase, they only have a maximum of 5, so it's a maximum of 5 models for the purposes of contesting objectives. So basically, they have a capture power of 5, regardless of at maximum. So if there was 2 guys, it would just be 2, but if they had like 20 guys, it would still be 5. So I think that's quite a niche thing, but that could be huge because, you know, you've got a unit of like 60 zombies on a objective. You count as 5 and you charge it with 2 drakes, you've just got the objective. So yeah, I don't know, maybe it's probably good against certain horde armies, not so good against most other armies, but it's still strong. I mean, it's good against Gargants as well. You imagine your Gargant counts as 5 rather than all the rest of it, and then so it's pretty strong. Yeah, I quite like that. So I think there's some stuff in here that needs a little bit of FAQ rewording of how it So rather than 5 models, I don't know if it's not really models, it's more like capture power, but I think the other rules say you count as this many models, so I think it's the same wording. I'd have to go look at the core rules, but you know what it's like with Age of Sigmar. There is a command trait which is called Favour the Bold. So this is after the general's fought in the first time and there are no enemy units within 3 inches of the general, roll a dice on a 2+, it can immediately make a d6-inch move and can finish that move within 3 inches of enemy units. So it's a bit of a weird one because you're not actually fighting again. It allows them to hit you, but what it does do, it does pin them in combat. So it might be a way of, oh, I can charge one thing, kill it, and then pile some, do the d6 into something else. But if you're that close, you've probably been able to pile in or charge to do that anyway, if that's your intention. And it's a d6, so it's random, and then you can't fight. So I'm not really, and they can hit you. So I didn't think it's worth taking. I'd just rather take the reroll charges. So, you know, from the core rules, the generic ones. The artifact's good. So it's Celestium Ensign. So you basically raise it up, and then you can heal D3 wounds. But this is the start of any phase, which is quite nice because you can do that in their go. So they could shoot you or whatever, and then you could use that to do the heal. Maybe they commit to try and kill something that's wounded, and then you heal D3 back, and then you're like, oh, now I'm probably not going to better kill that. So yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, the heal, and it's a bubble, so it affects multiple units, and you kind of, this army, you almost want your army to move in a blob, unit, and go in like a kind of like an onslaught attack in one area, then go to the next area. You don't really want to spread out and commit in multiple places. It's just kind of how I normally play and get good. That's why I go wrong. There's also a spell law. There's only one spell in it, so you've got this Regal Authority. Obviously, Kazra is the only one who can actually cast this. And it says that it's on a 7, range of 18. You can pick a Draconith unit wholly within range. Until the start of your next hero phase, each time the unit issues a command, you roll a dice. On a 5+, you don't spend a command point. So you can kind of cast that and go, well, actually, every time I spend a command on a 5, I get it back. So it's quite good. You don't have a lot of units anyway, and I think you're going to be casting his warscroll spell or like, you know, Mystic Shield, and maybe, you know, he's only got a 2-cast wizard, so I'm not sure there'll be much more. I don't think you'll cast it very often. You might put it up on turn 1 if you were like, well, I'll do that and Mystic Shield, you know, but then you've got loads of command points on turn 1, so I don't really know. Yeah, it does start to your next hero phase if they double you or something, then, but you should be a low drop. So yeah, I don't really think it's that good. So the allegiance also comes with some battle tactics and a grand strat. So the grand strat is if the battle ends, when the battle ends, you complete this grand strat if 3 friendly Draconith units are wholly within 9 of each other. If you've got 3 units left, you're probably winning. But it's not, you know, it's okay. I think it's fine to take that. I think you know, if you're going to win the game, you can achieve that easily as long as you've got 3 units alive. So it's fairly easy one to do. Then you've got the battle tactics now. Obviously, battle tactics are quite important when you write lists because they kind of how you win the games. Like, kin stuff doesn't really matter. And these ones are good, but they do require you to put 3 units minimum into something. So you've got concentrated force. So you complete the tactic if an enemy unit was targeted by attacks made by melee weapons by 3 or more Draconith SKYWING units in the combat phase of this turn. So you have to be a little bit careful you don't kill the unit with the first unit that fights. So you have to hit something pretty tanky, but thankfully there are a lot of things in the game that are pretty tanky. So you just got to target the unit with this attack. So it's melee weapons only. If it was breath weapons, it'd be easy, but unfortunately it's not. So yeah, it's okay. I think you have to be a bit careful not to kill the thing with one of the first or second unit that fights. So if you charge something and you can split your attacks, you can kind of mitigate that a little bit. But if you're fighting against like an Archeon or so, like a big unit of Ossiarch, Bone Reaper, 2-up save ridiculousness, then you could literally just go, well, I'm not going to kill them with 1 unit of attack, so I'm just gonna go hell for leather. And if you do wipe the thing out, you're probably going to win anyway. If you end up killing Catacross or Archeon, you're like, oh, okay, well, I've killed it. So, yeah, you might fail your battle tactic, but at least if you can kill it with a 3rd unit that activates, that'd be great, but not always possible. You got Focus Destruction, so this one's a lot easier because it's just Rampage. So if you charge 3 things into one thing, then you just go, well, they're all going to target that one thing with their monstrous Rampage, and it doesn't. You don't have to pick the enemy unit at the start. So it's not like you say, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do all 3 on that unit. You just have to make sure you do it on the same unit. So you can pick that, and then if they redeploy 1 unit, you can like play into another unit. It's or whatever they want to do. Again, it's easier to do it early on. So I found when I played, I should have probably used these early on when I had the models, and then later on take the safe ones, like have more stuff outside your territory than in it, and all that kind of stuff. Because they're easy ones. You start losing models, these become a lot harder to do because you need 3 units. Then you've got Cleansing Strike. So pick 2 objectives contested by enemy units. So they don't need to control them, they just need to have models on them. And you complete this if there are no enemy units contesting either objective at the end of this turn. So as long as you clear one of those, then you're good. So that's quite an easy one. So it's a fairly easy one to achieve because you just pick one that's got like they've just towed in on or something like that, and you go, I kill that unit, and that's my tactic. So with your armies being so impactful, you should be able to do that. If not, so it's gone horribly wrong. It's quite nice as well because they won't necessarily know which one you're going for. If you've picked 2, you can kind of hedge your bets, so it kind of like mitigates a bad roll if you commit to 2 different units. It's a fairly easy one to achieve. I found that one's quite good. But other than that, then you're down to the handbook one, so you're a little bit beholden to that. That's why I think you need to take Crondris, because you need a wizard to do a lot of these tactics. And I know you don't have a Galatian wizards or whatever they're called, Andorian locusts, whatever they're called. At least you've got, you can do that magic dominance one if you really want to, and he gets +3 to cast, so he's like pretty unlikely you're going to fail, especially with the extra magic dice you can roll. So you have to roll a double 1 basically, and if you set up outside Unbind range on turn 1, it's a fairly easy battle tactic to do turn 1. There's a I think 1 in 36 chance that you'll fail. So don't quote me. That double 1 can always come out, and then you're pretty much screwed. But there you go. That can that's just dice. You don't really take any risk, but at least you save the other battle tactics for later, and it's a lot less chance than some of the other tactics. So I'd probably be doing that turn 1. So that's the battle tactics in there. So what did I take in my list then? So let's have a look. So I've got Ionis Critborn, obviously. Now I've put Prayer as either Sovereignty or Sigmar's Grace. I think you're going to take either the heal or the objective control. I think in hindsight I'd probably take the heal and then just rely on killing stuff. I think that's probably more the way I want to go with that. Also, it means I'll be less tempted to use his like Prayer for something. It's quite a short range Sovereignty, although I do think it's really good. You've got the Knight Draconus as my general. He's got Battle Lust for reroll runs and charges, and he's got the Ensign, which is the heal. You can give him something else if you want. He already wounds on 2, so Manticore Venom's not really useful, but you could give him the Wizarding Hat if you really want to. Give him a Mystic Shield cast. I don't know. Maybe it's up to you. Then I've got Crondris again. You only can have 1 spell, so you might as well take the spell Regal Authority. And he's obviously battle line. So he becomes, just a battle line unit. And then 2 units of 2 Storm Drake Guard, that's your free battle line. And then I've only got 100 points left, so the only thing I can put is an endless spell. So you could put Purple Sun, you could put Quicksilver Blade, you could put Geminids. I like the Everblaze Comet because it's cool, and I just think you have a big comet, it blows up, does a load of damage. Ionis takes it off in their hero phase, then you cast it again, it drops again, deals more water wounds. Just nice chip damage for that with the breath weapons, you know, with the shooting from, and then like some monstrous rampages like stomps and things. There's quite a lot of mortal wound output. I also quite like when the comet drops, it makes their wizards -1 to cast, so it's kind of, you know, it's kind of that, oh, do I get rid of it or not, or do I leave it? It depends on what you're facing, but yeah, I like it. I think it's a cool model. It fits the theme. I mean, Purple Sun's an interesting one. I think it's hard to then get rid of it. You know, it's the -1 armor save, and the mortal wound output or killer model can be pretty impactful. It also looks really intimidating, so the Purple Sun's another one I might consider. I mean, they're all the spells have got uses. You could take whichever one you really want to, but I think most people probably talking Geminids, because of command abilities and all this, but it's a bit boring. I think when you've got ways to shut down like rally and stuff like that, and I think Geminids only works up until the shooting phase, so it's like redeploys and things. Can't remember. I much prefer just doing mortal wounds and, you know, trying to blow things up. I think that's a bit more fun. So that's what I've gone for. So that's 1990. You could put this in a 2-drop army. So you take the battle regiment, and then you've got one hero outside of that, so that's a 2-drop. And then you can take the triumph of you know, +1 to wound. If you take a cheaper endless spell like Geminids, you're probably more likely to have the triumph. I arm my Stormdrake Guard with lances. I think that's probably the way I would want them to go, because I think you're just better off doing the charging. The Drakes do most of the damage anyway. I think at Rend 1 with the 6 attacks and the 1-inch reach, it's not as good. I just think I'd much rather have the Rend 2 damage 2 on the riders, and it makes rolling a little bit easier because it's all the same. So I like the idea of having lances. I'm not sure what's better mathematically. You might take a mix. I might build 2 with lance, 2 with sword, and then just mix them, and then say, well, they take what you want then. But I think the lances look cool. I like the pendants hanging off the lances as well, so I think that'd make the model look a bit more dynamic. Yeah, but that's it. I mean, not much to it really. You can. I played against Ossiarch Bone Reapers. I could have killed Catacross with the mortal wound output, I think, quite easily if I'd focused. I kind of underestimated the damage it would do. I did all right. I did manage a win. It was quite a close game. Come down, I think I won by like 4 points in the end. It just really came down to little small margins. I had some really, really bad rolls. I lost the priorities on 1, 2, and 3. And 4, I think, and I only won on turn 5 the priority, which meant I was able to basically run away from movement 4 Catacross, tag some objectives, and just get 1, 2 more. Failed battle tactics on rounds 3 and 4 and 5 because there's nothing I could have done. I only had like 2 models left, so I couldn't do half my battle tactics, and that was probably my fault for using the easy ones early. I also lost Crondrus quite cheaply. Probably shouldn't have died. I should have best stayed him rather than Ionis, because Ionis has the wound bounce. That was a mistake on my part. I didn't get Mystic Shield off, which would have been big, because that would have allowed me to put a save on Crondrus or Ionis, and you know, kind of mitigate the chance of them dying. So yeah, I mean, the list was lots of fun to play with. I think the new Allegiance is pretty fun. Is it better than just playing Stormcast? I don't know, probably not, but I think at least you get some cool stuff. The monstrous rampages are super good. The -1 to wound one is just money. I really like that. If you can roar and make the -1 to wound, that really does limit the number of damage coming back at you, especially if you've got a save buff on you, or and then obviously they're -1 attack as well if they're attacking Crondrus or Ionis. So those models are quite tanky. Ionis's damage output was great. His breath weapon was really solid as well. I was really happy with that. He was able to take a fully buffed Catacross charge and not die. Although I did roll really badly and he only had a couple of wounds left, but he did survive. if I'd won the turn roll back, he would have survived the game, but I didn't win the roll and he got killed. But it would have been nice because I could have then retreated them out. He's very fast at movement 14, which is great. I really like him. I think the model's cool. I think he plays really nicely, and it's such a nice utility piece in the army. It adds so much value. So yeah, definitely would take him every time, because it kind of means it just gives you a lot of options. The Knight Draconus is just amazing. Like, they're really good. I wouldn't run a list without a Knight Draconus. I just think they're so solid. Crondris could be a unit of 2 Stormdrake Guard, but then you kind of end up with loads of spare points, but not enough to put 2 more Drake in. So you kind of have like 1 Drake and then loads of spare change, or 1 extra hero and some spare change, and then you've got no wizard, so you can't take an endless spell. The other option is to take like the 1 unit of 2 Stormdrake Guard and the Knight Draconus and turn that into Kazrai. So that's like, Ionis, Crondris, and Kazrai. And then you've got 2 Stormdrake Guard. You've got your 3 battle line. You do become a 1-drop then, because both Crondris and Kazrai are battle line. And then you can take a single Stormdrake, because in this Stormwing you don't need a Knight Draconus to make that Stormdrake single model. You have a hero, and you've got 3 heroes, so you could take 3 singles. You wouldn't be able to afford an endless spell. I think you're at 1965 with those changes. But a super cool army if you take both the big dragons and Ionis, and then you put them in like a triangle with drakes either side and just move it as a big blob. It'd be quite scary. I think Kazrai is actually quite good in combat. I never actually used him, so I don't know. I mean, I think probably 2 Guard, the 2 Guard and Knight Draconus is better, but each to their own. I think you're only really giving up 1 Guard because you can get a single one. So you lose 1 Drake and the Knight Draconus, and you can put Kazrai in, and you wouldn't have the Everblaze Comet, but you might be able to put a cheap thing in. I don't know if there's anything for 35 points. Probably, but nothing that amazing. So that's the list. I hope you liked it. So that's from the Long Hunt book. So thanks, GW, for sending me the sample physical book. I always like to get those. If you want to see me do my army, my hobby blog, I'll be doing that instead of the Iron Jaws. Sorry, or at Warclans players, new shinies come along and it's won me over. So this is the list I'm going to be building and painting. I'll probably do a Kazrai as well, and that gives me enough options then to run the different lists that I want to run, and we'll just play around with that, and that's going to be a lot of fun for me going to the next few events over the next sort of few months. So hopefully you enjoyed the show. I might do another show on the Ogre Moor Tribe one, because I play Ogres, and I kind of got the more, I don't know what it's called, but the new Moor terrain from the Warcry set. I would one of those, so hopefully I can get that, and then I can do that for my Ogre Moor Tribe army. And just to explain, because I kind of never really liked the pot, it doesn't really do much. So yeah, it'd be cool to see how that behaves. But yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching, and tune in again soon. I might do a little review on the other allegiances, like the Sylvaneth one, but don't hold your breath. They're not really my cup of tea, so I might not do that. But if you want those rules, you can pick the book up today on pre-order. I'd highly recommend you do so. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you all in the next one.